I never thought a millionaire would give it all up for a rejected mother and her son. It was a chilling day. A storm raged outside, lightning sliced through the sky, illuminating the chaos in my life. I'll never forget the moment everything shattered. I stood there, heart pounding, tears streaming down my cheeks, feeling utterly helpless. My name is Eliza. Just another woman clinging to dreams that felt forever out of reach. My son, Tommy, was my reason to fight, even when the world seemed ready to swallow me whole. His laughter sounded like music, a soothing balm in our bleak existence. But now, that laughter felt like a ghost. Our home was a dimly lit apartment, walls decorated with faded memories, echoes of love no longer present. I lost my job 2 months ago, and each bill piled higher, turning my everyday life into a battlefield. I could already hear the whispers, the judgment, people doubting my worth. My mother, with her disappointment echoing in her eyes, was the hardest. She lived a life where success tasted sweet. I was stuck sipping the bitter dregs of failure. Then, the news broke. It rippled through the town like wildfire. A millionaire, Hart Montgomery, had vanished. In the blink of an eye, he tossed aside his empires, riches, and faceless parties. I almost choked on my coffee as I listened to the gossip. He was seen near a local shelter, his gaze locked on mothers like me, seeking someone, something. Was it me? I decided to investigate. The pouring rain couldn't wash away the doubts or the desperation inside me. I tightened my coat, feeling the trembling of my hands. I approached the shelter, the air thick with tension and the scent of damp concrete. Inside, a line of weary souls waited, eyes downcast. And there he was, Hart. His light gray suit clung to him as if he'd stepped directly out of a magazine. But it wasn't his wealth that made my heart race, it was the sadness in his eyes. Something pulled at me, tightening my chest, almost like I could sense a storm brewing inside him. People around me were buzzing with whispers. Why is he here? What could he want with us? I took a step back, uncertainty clawing at my mind. My breath hitched as I tried to make sense of it all. The contrast of his world and mine was stark. How could a man with everything abandon it for a woman with nothing? Nothing but a child, filled with dreams and hopes. The moment felt heavy, as time slowed around us. Hart's gaze met mine, and an electric pulse surged through me. A single heartbeat echoed loud in the silence. A question lingered: was he searching for redemption, or was he running from something even darker? Before I could catch my breath, a loud bang erupted outside. A flash, then darkness enveloped the room. Gasps filled the air. In that chaos, Hart turned to me, urgency etched across his face. We need to get out of here. And just like that, everything spiraled. As I ran, pulling Tommy close, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The air was thick and frantic, a pulse quickened by the chaos outside. I held Tommy close, his small frame pressing against me, warm and alive amid the uncertainty. Hart's presence felt both reassuring and terrifying, like colliding worlds. As we darted away from the shelter, the oppressive rain mixed with the winds of the storm, a bitter reminder of the tempest within us, that we found shelter under an old awning, the sounds of the city swallowed by the wrath of nature. Hart's expression was a chaotic blend of urgency and concern. Are you two okay? He asked, glancing at Tommy, who was wide-eyed and trembling, clinging to my leg like a lifeline. That I nodded, though I didn't feel okay. Not at all. My heart raced as I searched for the right words, grappling with the fear gnawing at my insides. It was one thing to share a moment of connection amidst sorrow, it was quite another to plunge into the unknown with this stranger, this millionaire knight who seemed just as lost as I felt. "What's happening?" I asked, my voice barely audible above the storm's growl. "That I don't know," Hart replied, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "There was a commotion. All I could think about was getting you both away from there." A strange warmth bloomed within me. This man, whom I'd only met for a fleeting moment, was willing to face danger for us. It felt unexpected, like rays of sunlight breaking through dark clouds. But as quickly as that warmth engulfed me, a shiver of doubt followed. What did he want from us? Why was he really here? Before I could voice my swirling thoughts, a figure dashed toward us, a woman dressed in rugged clothes, mud splattered on her face. She was gasping for breath, her eyes darting nervously. "Please, can you help me? They're coming after me," she pleaded, fear straining her voice. Hart stepped forward instinctively, but I caught his hand, uncertainty tugging at me. "Wait, we don't know her. We can't just leave her," he insisted, looking back at me with determination. In a world where everything had turned upside down, this felt wrong, yet there was something about her desperation that mirrored my own. "All right," I relented, my voice steadying as I gripped Tommy tighter. "But we need to be cautious." Together, we pulled her in, forming an unlikely trio. She introduced herself as Maya, sharing fragments of her story, the threats she faced from an abusive partner who had connections no one dared to cross. Her vulnerability wrapped around us, intertwining our fates further. "I didn't mean to put you in danger," Maya said, her breath shaky as she caught sight of Hart's well-tailored suit. "I just didn't know where else to go." The storm raged on, but amid the thunder, I felt this instinctual pull towards her pain. The world had thrown her aside, much like it had done to me. The bond forged was fragile, yet it sparked a flicker of hope, but hope was a dangerous companion. I could feel the weight of my own burdens pressing down on me as I glanced at Hart. I saw him wrestling with the shadows of his past, the memories that haunted him. Would he really give up everything to help someone like me? Someone fragile, drowning in failures and disappointments. "Let's find shelter," Hart said, glancing around the empty street, then motioning for us to follow him. "There's a diner nearby. We can figure things out inside." We hurried through the downpour, our combined fear propelling us. Inside the diner, the lights flickered ominously, casting shadows across the worn booths. The owner, an elderly man with kind eyes, took one look at our soaked clothes and ushered us in, offering hot coffee and blankets as, unbeknownst to us, life outside continued to unravel. Sitting across from each other at the small table, the room felt heavy with questions. Hart caught my gaze, frustration bubbling beneath that calm exterior. "What are you thinking?" he asked, the tension between us palpable. What was I thinking? I could only process that each moment swallowed in the recognition of our struggles forged an unbreakable bond. But could I trust him? Trust the way my heart seemed to leap at his mere presence? Before I could answer, the lights flickered again, then went out entirely. We were cloaked in darkness, punctuated only by the sporadic flashes of lightning that illuminated startled faces. A sense of dread plunged deep, unfurling in the silence where voices faded. And then came a loud crash outside. "Stay here," Hart instructed, his voice steady. I could only nod, heart thundering. He strode toward the door as if propelled by some unyielding force that both enthralled and terrified me. "Are you sure this is the right thing to do?" I called after him, sensing the impending danger. His look flickered between resolve and uncertainty. "I need to find out what's happening," he said, determination etched into the lines of his face. In that moment, I could have reached out, to stop him, to ask him to stay. But an overwhelming instinct stopped me. Something was shifting in the air, something darker and more complex than I could comprehend. In the depths of my racing heart, I realized I was more afraid of what this could mean, of facing the truth about Hart, than I was of the chaos outside the diner. What would happen to us if he didn't return, if we lost our strange protector? As the storm raged on, I clutched Tommy close, feeling the weight of our choices hanging between us. And deep down, lips quivering, I sensed that we were on the brink of something monumental, a revelation that threatened to change everything I believed about love, sacrifice, and the fragile threads that bound us all together, and just then, a deafening silence fell, broken only by a whisper of a voice outside the diner. I leaned closer, breath catching in my throat, reality starting to unravel. Heart. But the storm outside drowned my words, pushing me closer to the edge, spiraling into unknown depths that promised danger, and perhaps, at last, some truth. Moments felt like hours as I strained to listen for any sign of heart. Outside, the rain poured like a relentless cascade, while the wind howled, a mournful soundtrack that mirrored the unease swelling within me. Each heartbeat resonated louder than thunder, echoing my growing dread. Tommy's little hand grasped my arm tightly, and I tried to offer him the comfort I couldn't muster for myself. "Mom, is Mr. Hart coming back?" he asked, his voice a whisper that held more innocence than I felt I deserved to give back. That I wanted to say yes, to reassure him that the storm would pass and our protector would return. But the uncertainty gnawed at me, the fleeting warmth of my fleeting trust felt like ice melting on a too-hot day. I think so," I finally managed, my voice wavering. "He'll come back. He's just checking to make sure everything is okay," but my reassurance felt hollow. Each clap of thunder sounded like an answer to a question I desperately tried to dodge. Could I hold on to the belief that he would risk himself for us? Or had I simply projected my ideals onto him in a moment of crisis? I rose from the booth, unable to stay still any longer. The diner felt too claustrophobic, each tick of the old clock above the coffee counter like a cruel reminder of our waiting. "I'm going to see," I said softly to Tommy, crouching beside him. "Stay here. I'll be right back, don't leave me, Mom," he pleaded, his eyes wide and frightened. "That I won't. Just stay where it's safe," I promised, brushing his hair back affectionately before slipping out into the darkness that awaited me. The damp air hit me like an icy wave. I strayed away from the soft glow of the diner, stepping out into the chaos of the world outside. The scene was surreal, remnants of the storm littered the streets, and the clang of debris created discordant symphonies with nature's ferocity. "Heart!" I shouted, the sound of my voice swallowed by the swirling winds. My heart raced, urging me to move deeper into the storm. Each step was grueling, worn soles squelting on slick pavement. I shivered, not just from the cold but from the creeping sensation that I was crossing an invisible line into a treacherous unknown. As I rounded a corner, I spotted a flicker of movement in the distance. I squinted against the rain and fear twisted in my stomach as I saw two men in dark clothing, towering over a struggling figure. "Let him go!" I shouted, crashing through the puddles, every nerve igniting with panic. The moment I shouted, the figures froze, turning towards me. One of them laughed, a sound that sent chills down my spine. The other was kneeling, trying to shield a battered form crumpled on the ground. My heart sank as I realized the familiar silhouette. "It was Hart. What did you do?" I charged forward, defiance curating courage I did not feel. The men exchanged a glance, eyes glimmering with malicious amusement before shifting attention back to Hart, who seemed dazed but still holding on. "Just teaching this guy a lesson he won't forget, sweetheart," the taller figure began, brandishing a weapon that glinted ominously under the sporadic flashes of lightning. "Keep walking if you don't want to end up like him, please," I begged, desperate. "He didn't do anything to you." "Oh, but he did." The man stepped closer, and I could see the chaotic fury behind his eyes. "He messed with the wrong people." "You really think you can save him?" For a flickering moment, the world around us quieted, everything becoming unbearably still apart from the steady rain. Hart's weary eyes locked onto mine, a mixture of pain and insistence telling me to retreat yet again. "Daisy," he called, but the words melted into the air as the second attacker forced him down, pushing against Hart's back as mama bear instinct swelled inside me. "You don't get to hurt him," I screamed, the lingering courage breaking loose in an unrestrained wave. Before I could think, I lunged at the assailants, pushing them in a primal instinct to protect. My hands scraped against rough fabric as I shoved, evoking a sense of power I wasn't aware existed. It cost me though, as I fell back. Against the slick pavement, I heard Hart's desperate shout, "Daisy, no," but it was too late. The thud of my fall was swallowed by the chaos, and the world became a tumult of rain and darkness. The last thing I registered was Hart's anguished expression morphing into something fierce and determined. "Get away from her!" he roared, and the nature of the storms raged on in a strangely echoing fury, as if the heavens themselves were matching the fury brewing on the ground. A door swung open, and I felt the brief lull of warmth from the diner's lights spilling over us. As I lay there, dazed and struggling against oblivion, I felt a strange juxtaposition of hope and despair battling for dominion inside me. I blinked as blurry figures swarmed closer, ready to step into an unfamiliar theater of pain, but then everything went black, and the question mockingly hung in the air: who would truly fight for whom? What sacrifices were yet to come in a world where love felt profoundly twisted and insurmountable? Everything breathed still except the faintest sound of a heartbeat, echoing alongside my own. What did it mean? Who were we meant to save in this storm of chaos? The revelation crashed over me like the storm itself. And then, silence. The numbness was the first thing I noticed, a heavy weight that pressed down on my chest. When I opened my eyes, the world was blurred and muted, shrouded in a fog of confusion. I recoiled at the sensation of warmth. I was cocooned in layers of warmth, soft and inviting, a stark contrast to the chaos that had engulfed me just moments before. As my surroundings slowly came into focus, the diner emerged into view, though I remained flattened against the cool vinyl of a booth. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, and the smell of coffee mixed with something sweet, perhaps pie, cooling on the counter permeated the air. Voices wrapped around me like a comforting blanket, but the undercurrents of fear twisted between syllables. "Just take it easy. You'll be okay," one voice cooed gently, and it took me a moment to register the tone. It was Hart's voice, yet it felt different, softer, more vulnerable. My heart raced as I sat up abruptly. "Hart!" I rasped, catching a glimpse of him at the table across from me. His shirt was torn and bloodied, but the fire in his gaze remained alive. What had happened? Had I imagined the events of the storm? The men, their threats? "Daisy, you're awake." "Thank God," he breathed, relief flooding his voice as he rushed to my side. A hand at my back, steady and reassuring, anchored me to the reality unraveling around us. "You scared me," something fluttered in my chest at the closeness of him, a reminder of how I had soldiered forth, battling shadows I had no idea I could confront. "I thought I know." He cut me off gently. "You thought you could help me. But you shouldn't have. This isn't your fight, then whose fight is it?" "I can't stand by any more," I protested, desperation creeping in. "It's not fair, Hart. I can't just watch you shoulder everything on your own." He winced, perhaps from both the injuries and the weight of my words. He leaned back slightly, eyes searching mine. "You don't know what you're getting into. These aren't just petty criminals. They're connected, and they won't stop until they have what they want." His admission hung thickly in the air, and a tremor of fear trickled through me, merging with the anger that rose up from my very core. "And what do they want, me?" he murmured, almost to himself, though the reality of it was a blow straight to my heart. "But it isn't just about me anymore. It's about you and Tommy." My thoughts whirled, macerating the gravity of his words as the pieces clicked into place. "What do you mean? I can't let you be swept away by this. We can figure something out, right? Together." A flicker of pain crossed his features, deepening the frown that carved into his handsome face. "That's just it, Daisy. I don't know if there's anything I can do to keep you safe." The air grew thick with unspoken fears, the storm outside suddenly feeling like a metaphor for the turmoil brewing within. I could feel the shift, the way his resolve hardened in the face of my vulnerability. "You've already protected us once," I whispered, grasping his hand, feeling the warmth of skin against warm skin, sensing the fiery edges where desperation and hope collided. "You can do it again." Before he could respond, a sharp noise broke through the comforting Hazia. Door slammed loudly enough to rattle the old diner's glass windows. My heart skipped, and panic surged as I glanced toward the entrance. A figure enveloped in shadows stood framed in the doorway, lit from behind by the blaring neon of the diner sign. I couldn't see their face, but the energy in the room shifted, a palpable tension that surged through us all like a current. Ah, the lovebirds are awake, a raspy voice chimed, filled with disdain. Someone from my worst nightmares had stepped into reality, and my stomach tightened. The visitors stepped forward, but I still couldn't see clearly, the darkness surrounding their features, except for a glimpse of familiarity in their stance. "Who is that?" I breathed, glancing frantically at Hart, who wore an expression of mixture fear and defiance. "A battleground without a clear victor. It doesn't matter," he muttered fiercely, pulling me closer. "Whatever happens, stay behind me, who it is. What do you want?" I demanded, gripping the edge of the table harder as my heart thundered in protest against the silent storm building within me. A chuckle echoed through the air and filled the diner with a sense of impending doom. "What I want is to remind you both of the stories you don't quite know how to tell. You've interfered where you shouldn't have before, and it appears you're not keen on learning your lesson." In that moment, confusion twisted with hope, and I struggled to find my voice. "No. We can find a way. There must be something we can do, that's the spirit," our visitor taunted. "But, I wonder, how far are you willing to go to protect each other? What if your lives depended on the choices you make next? What if you had to sacrifice everything to save him?" Hart inhaled sharply, realization etched across his face as he leaned back slightly, composing himself, though I could feel the tension crackle between us. And in that petrified moment, I understood, the stakes had just risen higher than I ever imagined. The strangest part was that beneath the fear, I felt a flicker of determination ignite in my heart. We had the power to change our story, and if that meant facing our demons head-on, well, perhaps that storm would finally lead us to the clarity we desperately sought. As I clutched Hart's hand tighter, the shadows in the doorway stepped into the light, revealing a face I never expected to see, and instantly my veins turned to ice. The truth was about to unravel, and with it, the choice between safety and sacrifice loomed ominously against the softened glow of the diner lights. As the figure stepped into the light, my heart sank into an abyss of disbelief. There stood Nina, my mother, looking regal yet worn, her eyes flickering with emotions I couldn't decipher. The blonde locks that had once shone brightly now seemed dulled by hardships I had never fathomed. A tightening in my chest made it hard to breathe as memories of her abandonment clawed at my mind. "Hart," I gasped, still feeling his warmth pressed against me like an anchor. She can't be here." Nina's lips curled into a smirk that twisted my insides. "Surprised to see me? I thought you might like to know that your dear friend here has quite the reputation, one I helped build from the shadows." It felt as though the world tilted on its axis, all my beliefs spinning away as the truth slammed into me. "What do you mean?" I pressed, desperate to understand the connection in this twisted narrative. Her laughter echoed in the small diner, a sound that fell flat against the backdrop of my racing heart. "Hart is not the innocent victim you think he is. He's tangled in a world much darker than you can comprehend, one I once played no small part in." "Stop it!" I shouted, displacing the fear with anger. "You don't get to waltz back into my life and say these things. You left us. You chose to walk away." Nina stepped closer, her gaze piercing through the facade of my anger. "And you chose to chase after a boy you barely know. A boy I thought would be long gone by now, another casualty in a game of power. But here we are, dear. You and Hart are now inextricably woven into my business, a business that could ruin you both." Hart's grip tightened around my hand. "Daisy, stay back," he warned, his eyes darkened with an anger I had never seen before. "You don't know what she's capable of." "She's my mother," I shot back, confusion tinged with defiance. "You think I'm afraid of her?" Nina approached us with a calm confidence that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. "Oh, sweet child, you should be. You haven't even begun to see the depths of my world or the lengths I'll go to protect what's mine." "Protect what?" I spat, defiance exploding through my veins even as apprehension whispered from the shadows. "You didn't protect me when I needed you. I knew you would be fine," she said with an ice-cold detachment. "And now look at you, stronger than I ever anticipated." "But Hart? He's more of a liability than you realize." "Enough." Hart interjected, stepping between us like a shield. "You don't get to threaten Daisy. Whatever game you're playing, it ends now, but her laugh, a chilling echo, shattered the fragile resolve in the room. You think you can thwart me? You both underestimate the lengths to which I will go. Make no mistake, I am the storm you've awakened. Suddenly, the air shifted as her words hung, thick with a promise that felt ominous and true. You believe you're protecting each other? She continued, stepping back slightly to survey us, her tone shifting from that of a mother to a predator. I can give you power, every resource necessary to shield yourselves from those who wish to take you down. But power comes at a price one you both might not be willing to pay. The prospect of her offer felt like a distance I couldn't comprehend, one that hovered just out of reach beneath a veil of blood and betrayal. I turned to Hart, searching for a glimmer of hope, a way to fight this together, but his face bore the weight of unshed tears. That I will never turn to you, he said finally, his voice breaking. Take your power and shove it where the sun doesn't shine. That a foolish choice, she replied, and for a moment, her eyes flickered with a hardness I had never seen in her before. But I expect nothing less from children too naive to see the consequences of their defiance. In that moment, the diner felt like it was collapsing in around us, the light seeming colder, the distance between us three growing unbearable. I had never yearned for the simplicity of the past more than now, when the only battles I faced were against the girl my mother had expected me to be, and those I chose to surround myself with. What came next would change everything. Hart pulled me in closer, the warmth of his body a faint reminder of resolve, but doubt seeped in, the echo of Nina's words haunting the edges of my mind. And then, as if to solidify my fears, the server at the counter, who had been silently watching the exchange, placed a hesitant hand on the phone. I think I should call someone, he stammered, eyes wide. No. We shouted in unison, panic flaring anew as both Nina's and Hart's eyes locked onto mine. Daisy. Hart's voice found a trembling steadiness, while the impending disaster swirled around us. We need to move, but before I could react, Nina's voice cut through the perpetual storm, layered with a newfound intensity. Choose wisely, Daisy. Sacrifice isn't just a word. It's coming for you. And as the lights flickered above, spitting shadows that danced menacingly around us, I realized this was more than a fight for survival. This was a confrontation with a past I never wanted to remember and a future that felt perpetually entwined with darkness. My heart raced as I faced the choice: would I abandon my fractured ties to the darkness or step into the storm alongside Hart, knowing full well the cost? In that unscripted moment, a chilling silence settled around us, leaving the fate of our story incomplete. The choice loomed large, the air thick with unspoken vows and broken promises, while my heart had never felt more uncertain. With the weight of Nina's ultimatum hanging above us, I felt suffocated by the enormity of my decision. The shadows cast by the flickering diner lights seemed to pulsate with a life of their own, mirroring the chaos swirling within me. My heart was a battleground, caught between the longing for connection and the instinct to flee. Daisy, we can't let her intimidate us, Hart urged, his voice fierce but laced with desperation. We've got to get out of here. Nina's smirk held a cruel delight, feeding off my turmoil. Run if you like, but you can't escape the web I've woven for you. I will always know where to find you, and one day, you will come to me just like I predicted. The world out there is no place for the weak. The server, still clutching his phone, looked terrified, glancing between us like a witness to a collapsing dream. What's going on? Should I really call? Just don't, I breathed, pinching the bridge of my nose to ground myself. Please. I felt Hart's steady presence beside me, his hand clutching mine like a lifebuoy, but uncertainty wrapped itself around my chest like a vice. Listen to me, both of you, Nina commanded, her tone shifting as her gaze locked onto Hart. You think your loyalty is a strength, but it's your greatest weakness. There's power in owning your history, embracing it, but you seem determined to fight it. Power built on lies is just a house of cards. Hart shot back, defiance radiating off him. I could feel his anger bubbling beneath the surface, but I also sensed something deeper: fear. Lies? Nina laughed, and I could see the madness gleam in her eyes. Dear boy, there are layers of truth you have yet to uncover. You think your friendship is enough to protect her? I've watched you, Hart. You are merely her shield against the forces I control. As she spoke, my thoughts drifted to my mother's abandoned love, the sacrifices she might have made for her ambitions. I yearned for Clarissa, a glimpse into the heart of this fractured family I was caught in. None of this has to be the end, I whispered, more to myself than to them. Maybe we could understand you instead of fighting. Nina leaned in closer, her eyes narrowing as if measuring my worth. Understand me? She purred. Now, there's an interesting proposition. But what are you willing to give up, Daisy? Are you prepared to embrace the darkness I walk in? An icy shiver traced my spine, and I instinctively stepped back, feeling heart's warmth dissipate just a fraction. Two won't be like you, I asserted, but doubt gnawed at my resolve. I would never abandon someone to gain power. Her laughter again filled the space, a haunting melody that made my skin crawl. Abandonment is a tool, not a weakness, dear. And if you refuse to see the potential before you, you'll lose everything you hold dear. Like Hart, get away from her, Hart growled, but my gaze flickered to him, seeking forgiveness for my hesitance. A fleeting thought tugged at me. Could embracing her world mean protecting Hart from the danger that loomed? A part of me screamed against the betrayal that flickered in the shadows of my mind. Suddenly, the diner doors burst open, startling all of us. A group of 3 men stepped inside, their presence heavy with intent. My gut instinctively told me they were not there for breakfast. They scanned the room, their eyes landing on Nina, whose smile had faded into a steely mask. Get down. Hart shouted, releasing my hand as he shoved me behind him. The chaos erupted in an instant, chairs scraping loudly across the floor, crashing sounds reverberating as laughter quickly turned to fear. Looks like you've caught the wrong attention, Nina remarked coolly, stepping backward into the dim light, her confidence unwavering. But do they even know who they're dealing with? I felt Hart's breath quicken as our surroundings transformed into a whirlwind of chaos. The men moved toward us with swift precision, their faces shrouded in menace as the server crouched behind the counter, holding his breath. Let her go, Nina. One of the men barked, an edge to his voice that coated my blood in ice. You're out of your depth. Hand over the girl. The implications of their words hit harder than a raw blow. The sense of power I clung to was snatched away, leaving me raw and vulnerable. Hart flinched, his eyes darting to me, fear etched deeply into his features. No. I cried out, panic spiraling inside me. I stepped forward, my heart drumming a reckless rhythm against my ribcage. I won't go with you. A flash of recognition crossed Nina's face, and in that moment, my world cracked open. You think you're strong? She mocked as she moved toward the men, her demeanor smooth, poised a queen among desperate knights. You think you can separate us? I am no pawn in your game, I whispered, fear fragile yet relentless against the truth laid bare. I looked to Hart, willing him to see the real danger, the depths to which my mother would sink for a moment of control, and then, just as the tension reached its peak, the power flickered entirely, leaving us engulfed in darkness, the diner plunging into a suffocating silence. In that blackened moment, time froze. I could feel the world shifting, foundations cracking as fear and uncertainty eclipsed the space between us. All I wanted was to cry out, to grasp hold of something solid amid the chaos. But when the lights flickered back on, we were left standing in a spotlight of confusion and dread. Just then, I spotted a butterscotch envelope drifting to the ground, its corners marked by eerily familiar handwriting. My throat tightened as I reached down to pick it up and opened it slowly, inadvertently exposing a family photograph: Nina, an unfamiliar man, and me as a child. But the picture held more than just nostalgia. On the back, a name scrawled in ink pulled the ground from beneath me: Elias. A gasp escaped my lips, and the room erupted with tension again as Hart's eyes widened. Daisy, what is that? Who is Elias? The question hung in the air, a weighty secret demanding revelation. I stood at the precipice of the unknown, the night still thick with shadows, my heart racing toward a confrontation I had never seen coming. The grip of fear tightened around me, sharper than the knife edge of betrayal in the room. Hart stepped closer, his expression shifting from confusion to concern as he reached for the photograph still trembling in my hands. Daisy, please, talk to me. What does this mean? but the words crumbled in my throat, lodged there by the weight of a truth I had never anticipated. Elias, a name shrouded in mystery, now echoing in my mind like a gunshot through silence. The photograph throbbed with answers I wasn't ready to face. A million questions flitted about my mind, but the central one loomed larger than the rest. Who was Elias, and why was he connected to Nina and my past? Nina's face twisted into a mask of frustration, her eyes glinting with frustration that I could suddenly read like an open book. "You finally opened Pandora's box, Daisy," she sneered. "What's done can never be undone. You have no idea what you're inviting in." "Shut up!" Hart shouted, his protective instincts ignited. "This isn't your moment, Nina. Daisy, please, just tell me what's going on." The photograph felt like a live wire in my grip, connecting me to memories that swirled just out of reach. I took a shaky breath, the tension mounting in the air as I pieced together fragments of my life I had buried beneath layers of denial. "Elias Hesh is my father," I finally stammered, each syllable dragging through the bitter realization that splintered my heart. That a shocked silence enveloped us. Hart's expression morphed from confusion to an understanding so deep it broke my heart. The room felt as small as a coffin, the air thickening with implications I was only just beginning to comprehend. "Your father, the one who left?" he asked slowly, each word weighted like stone. "But why does Nina have this?" "Because she's the one who brought him back into my life," I whispered, my voice cracking with the truth that now felt like a wound laid bare. "She controls everything, and she knows how to use it against me." Nina's laugh echoed through the din, a sharp and chilling sound. "Controlling you? Oh, sweet Daisy, it's not about control. It's about power. You could have that if you'd only embrace who you really are." "Embrace who I really am?" I echoed, shaking my head in disbelief. "You mean become like you? Manipulative, cruel?" A flash of something in emotion I couldn't quite decipher crossed her face. "You will understand one day. Even if it's the last thing I do." Her gaze flickered to the men standing by the entrance, who seemed to lose a little of their authority when their focus turned towards Nina. "But for now, know this, every path leads back to your family. Elias is no savior, darling, just another pawn in our little game, but one who has secrets you will wish to unearth." The suffocating darkness threatened to swallow me whole. My emotions tangled into an aggressive knot within. Here I was, drowning in revelations, with the specter of my father swaying between regret and hope. "I don't want to be a part of this," I said, my voice trembling. "Too late," Nina shot back, her eyes glinting with a predatory instinct. "You already are." Suddenly, one of the men surged forward, his eyes focusing on the photograph still clutched in my trembling hands. "Hand it over, Daisy," he barked, his tone leaving no room for debate. "The only way to free yourself is to give us what we came for." Style caught in my throat. I glanced at Hart, who remained resolute, a fortress at my side. In that moment, his presence felt like a flickering candle in the turbulent storm surrounding us. But the weight of the photograph was unbearable, my father's image blending past and present in a dangerous dance. No. I yelled, the defiance surging through me as if ignited by the truth. "You don't understand. I won't give up anything to the likes of you. I want my own future." Another wave of chaos erupted. One of the men shouted something I couldn't decipher as he lunged toward me. I stumbled backward, feeling the cool wall of the diner press against my shoulder, but Hart was instantly there, his hand firmly grasping my wrist to pull me back to safety. "Don't let them intimidate you," he urged fiercely. "You're stronger than this." "Well, figure it out." But chaos enveloped us again as more raised voices joined the fray, and the trio of men surged forward. My pulse raced as the weight of the photo threatened to drag me under, and I instinctively reached out for Hart, my refuge in this unforgiving storm. In that fragile instant, as our fingers intertwined, a surge of determination welled within me. My gaze flickered back to Nina, and the shadows of her manipulation started to take shape in my mind. "You may think you know everything about me, but you don't," I spat, anger lacing my tone. "You think you can control me? You're wrong." Nina's smile faltered for just a heartbeat, surprise breaking through her mask. Perhaps, for once, I had unsettled her, pushing against the confines she had crafted for me, but before any further confrontation could ensue, Hart's grip tightened around my wrist, pulling me just as the lights in the diner flickered again, plunging us into an even deeper darkness. The world spun out of control as I felt him guiding me through the pandemonium, away from Nina's chilling linger and the threatening presence of the men. Suddenly, I heard a voice, not from Nina or the men, but a soft whisper amidst the chaos, a woman's voice, familiar yet distant. "Daisy, my dear. It's time to stop running." My heart plummeted at the sound as the lights flickered back on, revealing a woman standing by the entrance. Her gaze locked onto mine, penetrating and achingly familiar. It was my mother, holding a small suitcase, her expression filled with both regret and determination. "Mom." The words slipped from my lips, raw and unsteady. Just as confusion welled within me, the world shifted again, and suddenly everything I thought I knew felt like a fleeting mirage. The room fell into an unsettling silence, the air thick with shock and disbelief. My mother stood there, a specter from the past, her presence igniting a storm of questions in my mind. The suitcase at her feet seemed to hold the weight of every unspoken conversation, every regret that had festered in the years of our separation. "Daisy," she said, her voice trembling with a mixture of warmth and fear. "I've come to explain everything." Hart's eyes darted between us, his protective stance shifting slightly as if sensing the emotional quagmire unfolding. I could feel my heart hammering against my ribcage, a frenzy of conflicting emotions cascading through me. How could she just appear after all this time, after everything I had gone through without her? "Explain what?" I managed to respond, anger bubbling under my voice despite the ache pooling in my chest. "You left. No, you abandoned me. And now, you waltz in with a suitcase like you're ready to pick up where you left off." Her face fell, the pain in her expression striking me harder than any harsh word I could hurl. "I know I don't have the right to ask for your forgiveness, but hear me out. It's not what you think. I had to protect you from him." "From who?" I challenged, a dark tangle of fury and sadness wrapping tightly around my heart. "Elias," she whispered, the name hanging heavy between us like a dark cloud. "I thought if I distanced myself from him, it would keep you safe. I thought I was doing the right thing." My breath caught in my throat. For so long, Elias had been this enigmatic figure, a ghost haunting the edges of my existence. I never imagined he would become the center of the conflict between my mother and me. "You mean he didn't just leave? You kicked him out?" Her gaze flickered, guilt etching deeper lines across her forehead. "Not exactly. We fought violently. I couldn't let him sway you into a life filled with darkness. It was a matter of survival. I thought if I could just keep you away from our past, you would have a chance at a better life. Why pretending I didn't have one?" My voice cracked, tears threatening to spill. "I spent my entire life wondering why you weren't there. Why you left me. And now, you show up with a suitcase like it's all so easy." She stepped closer, her hands extended as if to bridge the gap between us. "I missed you every day, Daisy. Every single day. I've carried the weight of my choices like a stone in my heart. When I heard about Nina, about how she was involving you, I knew I had to come. I needed to protect you, even if it meant facing you again." Before I could respond, Nina's voice buzzed through the air like static. "How touching, the lost mother, the abandoned daughter. But do you honestly think this will change anything? The tides have turned, my dear. Your mother can't shield you from the truth forever." "Oh, shut up, Nina." Hart interjected, stepping closer to protectively flank my side. "This isn't about you, but it was about more than just Nina. It was about family, betrayal, and the dangerous truths lurking just outside the door." I could feel the battle raging inside me, torn between despair and a flicker of hope. The suitcase at my mother's feet implored me, silently begging to unlock long-buried stories that reached beyond our fragile reunion. Suddenly, the lights flickered again, casting shadows that danced ominously, mimicking the chaos of my emotions. "You should leave," I whispered to my mother, tears spilling forth, but she refused to retreat. "No, I can't let them take you away again, Daisy. I would rather die than let you fall into their hands, she declared, her voice rising with resolve. Fall into whose hands? I demanded, panic rising as I searched both her and Nina's faces for clarity. What is going on? Who are these men? In that moment, the diner door swung open with an abruptness that sliced through the tension. Two figures appeared, stepping into the light, a man with a rugged demeanor and a woman with piercing blue eyes that matched mine. The man's expression mirrored a sense of urgency and determination, while the woman's lips curled into a smirk that sent chills down my spine, but it wasn't just their demeanor, it was the familiarity that struck me. Who are they? I breathed, the realization seeping through the fog of confusion. They're the ones who know about Elias. They're my mother faltered, glancing back at them, a flicker of fear flashing across her features. The ones who can provide answers, the man finished, stepping forward. And the ones who can make your life a living nightmare if you don't play along, the woman added, her tone as chilling as Nina's laugh. My world teetered on the brink of chaos as I grasped the implications of their presence. Just as I felt the tendrils of hope begin to wrap around my heart, they unraveled with the weight of dread. Because buried inside this twisted family history, among the layers of betrayal, there lingered truths that could destroy us all. As I looked from my mother to Hart, then to Nina, and finally to the newcomers, I realized this tangled web would not simply unravel. I wasn't just caught in this storm, I was at its center. Welcome back home, Daisy, the woman purred mockingly, her smile predatory as she leaned into the chaos. And in that moment, everything became clear. I had to decide, would I fight for my future, or would I succumb to the shadows that threatened to consume me? The choice was mine, and the path ahead was fraught with danger. The storm raged outside as I stood frozen, grappling with the weight of my reality. The newcomers loomed like harbingers of chaos, their presence igniting an unsettling sense of recognition within the confines of my heart. I could feel the air grow thicker, constricting around me as the choices unfurled like a deck of cards. Daisy! My mother cried out, desperately grasping for my attention. You don't understand. They understand what? I interrupted, the fire in my chest flaring dangerously. You've given me nothing but confusion and hurt for years. What am I supposed to believe now? Who are they to you, people who can help you a way to defeat the darkness closing in? The man interjected, his gravelly voice cutting through the cacophony of emotions. But it comes with a price. One you'll need to be ready to pay. Enough with the theatrics. Nina sneered, rolling her eyes. Have you all forgotten the peril that hangs over your heads? You talk of hope and darkness as if they are tangible things. Only those with nothing left to lose band together for a pathetic future. Shut up. Hart seethed, standing protectively in front of me as if shielding me from her venom. You have no place here. Their words reverberated within me, a push and pull of fury and desperation. My mother, the woman who had left me, now stood there trying to convince me she had made the right choices. Yet, beneath her trembling facade, I could sense the fragility of her resolve crumbling. Daisy, it's true, she said softly, placing her trembling hand against her chest. I can't change the past, but I can help you prepare for what's coming. Elias' world, it's full of darkness I wish to shield you from. Those people, they'll stop at nothing to get what they want. What's that supposed to mean? What do they want? I asked, my voice tight with anger and confusion. The truth, the woman said, her smirk widening into a predatory grin. Elias still has his claws in your life, sweetheart. And his debts are as deep as the family's secrets. Suddenly, the ground beneath me felt unsteady, my reality slipping just beyond my reach. Debts? Secrets? What had my life really been? I could feel the sharp thorns of fear wrapping around my heart, whispering that the world I thought I knew was as fragile as glass. There was a flicker of hope catching the light outside the diner window, an unexpected ray shining down through the storm clouds, illuminating a forgotten desire within me. I wanted to believe that there was a way out, a way to rise above this chaos, yet how could I trust my mother or the ominous figures before me? Before I could process my thoughts, Hart squeezed my shoulder gently and leaned in to whisper, "We'll get through this, but only if you stand strong. Remember the strength you have, Daisy, his words ignited a small fire within, yet it was overshadowed by the oppressive presence of Nina and the others. I glanced towards my mother, and for a moment, the vulnerability and sorrow etched in her features softened my heart. Could she still be the protector she claimed to be, or was she luring me closer to a trap? Then the door flung open again, and in strolled a familiar figure, a woman with raven-black hair cascading down her shoulders and eyes alight with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. It was Celia, my childhood neighbor and the one person who had always treated me kindly. Daisy? Her voice pierced through the chaos, disbelief evident in her tone. What's going on here? Celia's presence was a balm, a thread connecting me to a simpler time when life didn't feel as tangled as it did that moment. But as she entered, the room grew colder, the tension thickening with uncertainty. Oh, look! Another pawn to manipulate, Nina sneered, her gaze fixating on Celia as if she could see through her very soul. Celia gave a brave smile, but I could see the confusion flicker across her eyes. I came to see if you were all right. You vanished without a trace after your mother showed up. I faltered, the words catching in my throat. I wanted to reassure her, to tell her I was still whole, but where was the truth in that? Your mother is only a distraction. Nina taunted, now stepping forward, her lips curling as if savoring the chaos she had come to create. You think you can find solace in these old bonds while the truth looms ever closer? Enough. My mother shouted, her voice raw with desperation. If you want to save Daisy, you must trust us and accept the possibility that the shadows are closing in. I refuse to be a part of this charade, I spat, a mixture of fear crashing against my desperate need for clarity. You all deserve each other. At that moment, the lights flickered violently, plunging the space into darkness. A deafening silence followed, a hush that embraced the air around us. My heart raced, the uncertainty pooling around my feet like quicksand. Just as abruptly, the lights returned, illuminating an agonizing truth: the strangers were gone, vanished as if the tension had demanded their exit. Where did they go? I whispered, my breath hitching. Does it matter? Nina laughed, her voice now echoing with a dangerous lilt. They'll return when the game demands it. Just wait until the night swallows you whole, Daisy. And just like that, the room felt too small, the weight of choices too heavy. I was caught between old bonds and new threats, fearful of the darkness creeping ever closer. The final words faded into the chaos, leaving behind a single thought that rattled through me: I had inadvertently opened a door to shadows that thrived on secrets. Me secrets. With everyone's eyes on me, I was left to navigate the relentless abyss before me, the hope I nearly grasped slipping through my fingers like sand. How did this family I barely knew become the arena of my greatest battles? As cold winds swept through the diner once more, I felt a shiver race down my spine. I had been plunged into a game with stakes I had yet to comprehend, and the worst part was there was no going back. The storm had faded into a soft drizzle, its chaos replaced by an unsettling silence. Heart's presence enveloped me, a steady force tethering me to the fragile peace we had fought for in that diner. My mother stood near the door, an image of resolve but also fear, as if she too felt the unspoken tension crackling in the air. Daisy, she began, her voice trembling, but I couldn't bear to hear the uncertainty I knew lay in her words. Stop. I interrupted, the echo of that word ringing out almost defiantly. Just stop. You all keep twisting the truth and dragging me deeper into this nightmare, and I'm tired of it. My heart pounded in my chest, a drumbeat reminding me that I was still here, still fighting. If I am going to face what's ahead, I need to know the truth. No more secrets. No more shadows. Nina's expression contorted briefly, surprise flickering across her features before settling back into her familiar smirk. Ah, but darling, the truth is often a monster in disguise. Are you sure you want to unravel it? You may wish for the shadows once you see what lies beyond them. Ignoring her taunting, I turned toward my mother. You need to tell me everything. Why Elias left, what dark world he brought into our lives, and why you chose to cut him out. If I'm part of this family, I deserve to know my lineage. My mother's eyes glistened with unshed tears, the layers of pain visible as she took a trembling step forward. You're right, Daisy. You have every right to know. Elias is not just your father. He's tied to a world full of danger, crime, and darkness I tried desperately to shield you from. We were different people then, engulfed by aspirations and dreams that quickly turned into nightmares. As she spoke, my mind conjured images of a family I had never known but longed to understand. A man I had wished to connect with but was now painted in strokes of betrayal and fear. What do you mean? Why did he leave? Why did you choose to fight him instead of keeping us together? My mother gulped, the weight of her choices thrumming through the silence that followed. Elias was involved in things that could swallow you whole. He made enemies, dangerous enemies. She took a deep breath, the pause hanging thick in the air. When I realized he would never leave that life behind, I knew I had to protect you. He was both our salvation and our curse, the embodiment of our darkest fears. At that moment, my frustration shifted to an aching understanding. But you didn't just protect me, Mom. You left me. You abandoned me to build a life without the one person who could have given me answers to the questions that haunted me. I fought to keep my voice steady, but the tremor betrayed me. I loved you too much to let him destroy you, she said softly, vulnerability spilling out as she stepped closer, eyes glistening with pain. I thought I was making the right choices. What about the choices that matter now? I demanded, desperation creeping into my voice. What do we do with this familial burden? What do I do with what I now know? The air shifted again, darkening with complexity, but Hart's hand clasped mine, urging me to keep going. I won't turn my back on this. I want to fight, to understand what's waiting in the dark. Nina chuckled, her laughter cutting through the tension. You're adorably naive, Daisy. The world isn't as simple as choice and sacrifice. It will demand more than you can ever give. I'm done listening to you, I snapped, my heart pounding against the doubts she tried to sow in my mind. I felt that flicker of fire ignite within me again, a fierce determination demanding to rise. Tonight, it all changes. The truth fills the void my mother and I have been standing in, and I will learn how to navigate whatever comes next. Just then, the door swung open, slamming against the wall with an urgency that startled us all. In strode the figure of a man, tall and broad, with a commanding presence that filled the room. The tension shifted, and all eyes fell upon him. He radiated authority and assurance. Daisy, he called, his voice a deep rumble, filled with an unsettling familiarity. I've been looking for you. I froze, recognizing him from the photographs that had abruptly shifted the world I thought I knew. Who are you? I demanded, uncertainty pooling in my stomach like ice. Why do you know my name? I'm Elias, he said, his eyes locking onto mine with an intensity one had never known. Your father. The world around me tilted. Time slowed as dread unfurled, comprehension shattered in my chest, sending shockwaves through my entire body. No. No, this can't be happening. You left. You abandoned us. My voice trembled, rage rising from the ashes of my confusion. How dare you walk back into my life after all these years? Please, let me explain, he said, his voice steady, yet filled with urgency. I had to leave to keep you safe, Daisy. Trust me, your mother's fears were justified, and I wasn't prepared to put you both in danger. My actions were never meant to hurt. Your actions hurt worse than you can imagine. My heart swelled with betrayal as memories of longing and loss unfurled in the hollowness of my chest. The illusions of a family woven into tales of fantasy were crashing down, revealing the terrifying truths I had been shielded from. You think I wanted to disappear? Elias pressed, his voice thick with emotion. I had no choice. There were things I was involved in that threatened our lives, and I had to protect you. And running away is your idea of protecting us? I snapped, the bitterness seeping from every word. You don't get to come back with excuses. You made a choice, just like my mother did, and I am left with the fallout. Hart took a step forward, his presence grounding me amidst the swirl of emotions raging within. We won't let the darkness consume her, Elias. She's stronger than you realize. But she deserves to decide her own fate without lies or manipulation. As tension hung heavy in the air, my mother and Elias exchanged pained glances, the ghosts of their past clawing at the space between us. The room felt like a tempest, emotions swirling around with the force of a hurricane, and I was at the eye of that storm, struggling to reclaim my power. That I refused to be the pawn in this tragedy, I asserted, my voice unwavering. I looked straight at Elias, feeling the weight of all my unanswered questions. If you believe in our family, give me the truth. Not just the pieces that suit you, but all of it. The moment shifted, the storm outside echoing the turbulence within. Very well, Elias relented, his eyes darkening with the weight of old burdens. You deserve to know what I did to protect you and what I need to confront to ensure we're safe moving forward. It's time to face the shadows and to understand the choices that brought me here. As I held on to Heart's hand, my heart steadied, ready to face the oncoming storm with unwavering courage. The journey wasn't mine alone, we were all bound to confront the truths threatening to tear us apart. Whatever this fight will require, I'm ready, I declared, the fire within reigniting. We will face the darkness together. With that promise echoing around us, I felt the flicker of hope surge back to lift a light amid the shadows, reaffirming that even the fiercest storms cannot extinguish the indomitable spirit that unites us. And as I looked into the faces of those tethered to my fate, I knew we would emerge into the light with newfound strength, for we would finally own our narrative. The chaos around us was just the beginning, and I refused to let fear define me any longer. I took my first step into the unknown, ready to carve out a future from the fragments of our shattered pasts. Together, I whispered, sealing the resolve that ignited my heart. We find a way. We fight for each other. The storm may have raged, but in that moment, I felt a sense of clarity that signaled the dawn of a new chapter, waiting to unfold as our hearts intertwined like the roots of a mighty tree, steadfast and powerful against any tempest that dared to approach. And in that promise, I saw freedom, the kind that came not just from absence of fear, but from the boundless embrace of courage that filled the vast spaces between us, igniting a promise to rewrite our story, together. One heartbeat at a time.